shit is hitting the fan, unfortunately, as we speak. And it's, there's a new role for us, and that is to kind of lead the way and do the things that we do for the people around us. That's real. It's becoming really important to recognize how important the position that we are in, where we have some knowledge that a lot of other people don't have, that gives us, in some ways, guidance and comfort that other people don't have because they're afraid of what's going on. We've got that ability. And so I think it's really important, like the show that you're doing, the things that I'm doing, the community building that we're doing, each of us in our own way where we're at, as well as the things that are going on in autonomy. We've got to be on top of our game now. It's now. We've got to be here. We've got to be doing the things that we're doing.
I'm moving house today. It's been 2 years, 8 months and 28 days, and I've got to say that as I step off the bus for what could be the last time spent as sitting in your bus, supermarket queues, etc. And I have to say though, it's only today that I'm glad to be leaving. I really will miss the when Santa.
Listening to truthconduit.com with Chris McMillan.
I told my wife, because I said, you're not going to be allowed to listen to my interview with Mike, because she would move to Mexico tomorrow if I gave the green light. she really wants to move down there. I'm like, dude, we've got a good situation here. If we have to make that choice and go down there, we better make sure it is the absolute best choice for us. Given all the circumstances, because I'd love to go down there too, but we've got a pretty good deal here, which cannot be taken for granted. I mean,
yes,
there's a lot of potential where I'm at with everything going on. I told her, I said, you're not allowed to listen to my interview with Mike.
Man, I have a hard time not talking about Acapulco. I was talking to somebody this morning from the UK, and I said, I'm not going to say too much about Acapulco. So, like, if you want to know about Acapulco, I can talk about it, but I'd love to hear more from your point of view than just Acapulco.
Well, let's talk about it all now. Let's do it. I'm going to introduce you as the one and only, drum roll, Mike Nimitz. Mike Nimitz, this is what you are now. Right now, you're the shadow host. You're we're co-workers shadow hosting the Autonomy Season 6 class. That's our current project that takes up part of our week. I do Friday night lectures and you do the Q&A on Sundays. So we're doing that with Richard Grove. Also, you are the host of your own podcast, Leadership, Ethics, and Organization. And your most recent post, I was laughing so hard at you announcing your move from your physical location, but the construction going on next door, I don't know, is it a Latin thing or what? Because it reminded me so much of any given day in my life in Spain. Always those sounds I could completely relate to. And you're sitting there trying to talk and you hear the and the boom, boom. And you, just like anybody else, you just get on with it. It's the only thing you can do, just get on with it. So you've recently gone through that change. And I mean, mainly what I want to talk about today is you are a central figure in the organizing of the community going on down there. There's a huge expat community getting together in Acapulco in Mexico. And so that's been going on for a long time. But now that there's an attack on humanity, there is a literal war against the human race, and people who are coming to realize that, they've got a much better chance of getting through this. Because a lot of people don't even know there's a problem yet. They still think this is all going to go away once everyone gets the vaccine. And they're living in just this mainstream fantasy reality that I can't even imagine living in. That the fear that they must live with every day must be tangible. So then you've got a wiser group of people who are waking up, who have already been awake for a while. And one of the many options is community building. It is a very important option. And you're working with Bob Podolsky. I want to ask you all about that, what's going on down there. But my first question is, you've got a course going on. It's called Ethical Emergence 4.0. Was it called 4.0 before, or is this because you're coming on your fourth season of it?
Well, geez, let me first start by saying that I appreciate you, Chris, and all the things that you do. And man, it seems like you're on top of quite a few different things yourself. So it's always a pleasure to get some time with you, and certainly to be on your show here is a real honor to me every time I get a chance to do it. And the fact that we're doing it today is I greatly appreciate that. So thank you so much. And then another thing is the group that we're involved in, autonomy, is something that I think is becoming more and more important, that we are the people out there taking action. I kind of feel like that last Q&A that we had just this past Sunday. There was a couple different issues that came up where the shit is hitting the fan, unfortunately, as we speak. And it's there's a new role for us, and that is to kind of lead the way and do the things that we do for the people around us. That's real. It's becoming really important to recognize how important the position that we are in, where we have some knowledge that a lot of other people don't have, that gives us, in some ways, guidance and comfort that other people don't have, because they're afraid of what's going on. And we've got that ability. And so I think it's really important, like the show that you're doing, the things that I'm doing, the community building that we're doing, each of us in our own way, where we're at, as well as the things that are going on in autonomy. We've got to be on top of our game now. And it's now. We've got to be here. We've got to be doing the things that we're doing. And so certainly one of the things that I'm doing is what I call ethical emergence, and it's the 4.0 version. And that's because every time that I go through it, I work with the people I'm working with to realize potential. And it is really an experiment. And each of the participants that participate in ethical emergence we're trying to get them as far as we can with who they are, who they want to be, the potential that they want to realize. And it's kind of very simple, because it's all about what we do in the present. It's about the habits and the practices that we choose to do each and every day, that make us who we are, and determine the future. And so for the people that participate in that course, the idea is really to cover 7 different areas of things, like communication, like journaling, like digging deep, getting into like the truth of the matter of things, having a logical approach, working with other people. Those are the primary areas that I focus on, but all of those areas have different practices and rituals that appeal to that particular person. And so I help them develop their particular habits that speak to them, that make them feel great about themselves. And we use their strengths to their advantage. So all of those things relate to like reminding them on a daily basis about what it is that they're bringing to the table, that they're strong in. In the world that we live in, that's not the way things are, go. I mean, for the most part, it's you're being reminded of all your weaknesses, and you're being habitually reminded of your weaknesses all the time. And in a lot of ways the function of advertising, and that's why some of the things that we're doing with Autonomy Unlimited are important. Because of the nature of marketing in the modern world has been to remind people of all the bad things that are going on.
Yeah,
And
that's another thing. Autonomy Unlimited, for anyone listening who doesn't know, is well, how would you describe it, Mike? I'll let you describe it better than me.
Well, I think I think it is the representation of a niche that we're calling ethical marketing. And it is really an attempt by ethical people to bring about, a solution in the area of marketing that a lot of people lack an understanding of, and
Yeah, for
something that
any
we really have a strength in.
like content creators, course creators, entrepreneurs, what all we do: the video editing, the marketing, the social media, the course creating. So much can be done is offered by Autonomy Unlimited.
And I think the offer gets better every day because we bring in more people and there's more services that get provided, because that is one of the things about Autonomy and Autonomy Unlimited. We're collecting a community of people that have a whole bunch of skills and talents that people that are essentially getting involved with Autonomy Unlimited because of their marketing can also get connected to all those other resources. We certainly got a lot of project management. That's another area that I'm kind of involved in, but expertise
project
in that particular
management.
area. But then there's a whole bunch of other things that Agnieszka is coming up with something she calls the Maximize People Project, which is about like businesses that are having to convert to kind of online marketing or online.
Yeah, that's going to be a big
interaction.
thing coming up now.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been.
Well,
Just to
there's
clarify for people
Okay.
listening, Autonomy is technically a client of Autonomy Unlimited. So Autonomy Unlimited is the media, the online, the networking. They're the ones that will get your business out there into the digital space. And Autonomy is a life skills course that is offered by Richard Grove, going on to season 6 now, where basically students are trained to unlearn everything that they have been indoctrinated with and to take on he's got his 19 skills that he offers, the skills that they don't teach you in school, that if you can master these skills, you will be a truly autonomous person. You'll be able to make money and have a life of integrity anywhere you go. So, because I get, people get them confused. You got Autonomy, the class, then Autonomy Unlimited, the company, and then your course, Ethical Emergence Course 4.0. How often do you do one course a year, twice a year? How's it been going?
I try and do as many as I can, but it is like an experiment. And so
how long does it generally last? Is it
it's about 13 weeks is the official length.
Okay.
But then there's an opening part, and then there's a closing part. And I've had about 40 people go through the program, and each
definitely make sure I get the link for that, because everything we talk about, I put in the links for this.
You can find that on ethicalemergence.com. It's not the greatest website. I've been the one that's been doing it, so it's not perfect, but it'll give you an initial idea of what we're talking about.
What about the voluntarist community in Acapulco? Your Vivo Inteligente project, you've got a newsletter going. What's going on with all that?
I haven't done that, but you kind of led me into looking into I guess it's the Vibe in the Dallas community.
I was about to say, the Vibe community here where I'm at, I'm near Dallas. They're not messing around, and they've got it going on. This my buddy Travis, and then there's a girl called Storm. She calls herself Storm. They've really just come out of the woodwork and have got this thing going, organized, and they've got a newsletter now, and it's pretty awesome. They make sure people know the events and all that. I'll include that in the show notes as well, if nothing else, for other communities to look at as an example of what's going on. And I like how they, I I like how they changed the name, because okay, I first heard it from Stefan Verstappen, just don't call it a freedom cell, man, because yeah, call it Grandma's Butterfly Society or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to get your own going down there in the Acapulco community. Is that the plan?
Yeah, so it's been in the kind of the cooker for a while, and what we wanted to call it was Vivo Intelligente, which is live intelligently is essentially the translation. But the idea is to really similar to what they're doing there is to give people connection to the resources and some kind of way to interact with all the things that are going on in our community, because we do have a lot of things. And of course, Anarchapulco season is coming up again. Agorapoco is another thing that we do here, and it pretty much lasts from January until March 2022. We're going to have things going on, and to a large degree, that's one of the other things that that we want to do is kind of be like a training center for freedom cells and people that are trying to build community. We want to be able to give them all the resources and examples of things that we're doing down here that could be useful to them. The real benefit, I think, of being in Acapulco is we've got Acapulqueños, and to a large degree, they've been a community that's incredibly resilient, because Acapulco has been one that's been kind of the economic war has been waged against Acapulco in Mexico, as a tourist destination.
Do you think it's
Uh,
because there's so many freedom-minded Mexicans down there in that area?
Well, I think it's, because it is pretty distributed. So there's a lot of different people involved. And if you look at like Cancun or Puerto Vallarta, those were actually World Bank, IMF investment developments over the past 40 years that have really benefited, some of the big multinationals and stuff like that. So so those were developments that, the World Bank basically sponsored. And so to get those things off the ground, they waged war against Acapulco. They took away airlines, they took away cruise ships, they took away a lot of the things that were beneficial to Acapulco. And so for the most part, all the people that used to travel here from around the world, I mean, you used to have all the the noteworthy celebrities and stuff would have a place in Acapulco. Well, all that's gone now, and pretty much the only people that they rely on is Mexicans to come to Acapulco. Most of the Westerners have been warded away by the propaganda campaign that's been waged against Acapulco.
I mean, that's fantastic news. Let Acapulco, all the freedom-minded people go there, and everyone else can go F off to Cancun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of the things that makes Acapulco unique is they've been through that kind of economic warfare for a while, and they're incredibly resilient. They don't only have plan A, they got plan B and they got plan C, and they work together. This COVID thing has really been proving it to me, because they took away two of the biggest things that two of the biggest weekends and weeks for Acapulco as far as business is concerned is Easter and New Year's and Christmas. And
What do you
so,
mean took away?
well, they just canceled them. And so all the people that usually come down and for like New Year's, there's usually like 1 million people come to Acapulco, primarily from Mexico City, to celebrate New Year's and Christmas. And so they took that away. They canceled that. They canceled the fireworks and all that kind of stuff. And so that took away probably 2/3 of the economy.
Wouldn't it be
Uh,
ironic if Anarchapulco were to become the biggest event in Acapulco?
well, it is certainly one of the things that keeps us in the kind light with a lot of the locals here, is the fact that we bring down a lot of people, and and they appreciate that. And
And
so
what's Agorapulco then? I've heard you talk about it a bit, but what exactly is that? That follows Anarchapulco and
it surrounds Acapulco. So Acapulco this year, I think, is the 14th through the 18th of February in 2022, and Agorapulco will be all around it. So it'll probably be, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks before and 4 or 5 weeks after. We'll have all kinds of local events, and honestly, it kind of goes on year round. As long
so
as we've got
is
people
it
going
just like
here.
a free market event going on, Agorapulco, with speakers and people trading and hanging out like a trade fair or something?
Yeah, so during the main time frame, we've got a website, and we'll have a schedule. I'm not exactly sure. We're still a few months out, and more than likely we'll put a plan together in regard to that. But the idea is to just kind of create the infrastructure that people can schedule time, and so like people that aren't necessarily on the main stage for an Acapulco named speaker. We've had like David Icke and Ron Paul and people like that, kind of people that speak at
Who was the Fox
Acapulco.
News guy that spoke there? The Judge
Uh,
Napolitano spoke there
yeah,
as well, didn't he, one year?
yeah, yeah. So we've seen a lot of big name people, but for the people that are kind of up and coming, or people that have knowledge about particular things, Agorapulco is kind of that opportunity where we kind of put people together, and then allow them to do workshops or seminars or classes or presentations, any of that kind of stuff. If people are interested in giving that kind of courses out to your audience, or an audience that kind of collects from around the world, this is kind of the opportunity to do that. So I kind of pitched Stefan Verstappen, as far as, hey, why don't you come down to Acapulco and give us a couple workshops and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It's still
just
out there.
fly right over the space in between, whoosh, from Canada to Mexico. Do not stop in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But those kind of situations, we can create that kind of stuff. Stefan, if he was to do that, if he was to set up a workshop or something like that, I'm sure we could get enough people to make it worth his while to make that happen. And that's the kind of thing that we can offer a lot of people that are interested in teaching other people things that they need to be taught about. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff. I mean, even some of our folks in autonomy, I just attended an art class last night in oil painting.
I
And
love that.
the
Acrylic?
idea
No,
there,
oil. That's difficult.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, honestly, it's a lot easier than you think. And
That's
so
true. I've only tried once, and I did the background. You mentioned Stefan Verstappen. We've brought his name up a
yeah,
few times, so I should point out anyone listening who doesn't know who he is. I'll put the link to his course down below. But he's a survivalist who's now doing a course on building community, and he knows a thing or two about it. It's fascinating. Mike, you and I took the course together, and I'm still processing it all, but very, very useful information that was there. So that would be
yeah.
amazing if you guys got him down there. I'm sure he would love to come down.
Yeah, well, he said he was, like when I was talking to him, he said, yeah, it wouldn't be bad to spend like 6 months down there and write another book. I said, oh yeah, it's perfect for that kind of stuff. And then we've got people like Agnieszka, and we're actually in the kind of negotiation stage about putting together kind of a healing center where we can invite a whole bunch of like alternative medicine type people to offer their services to our community, and potentially to people that are coming from around the world, to kind of be introduced to some of the things that she can provide. I mean, a lot of that kind of stuff, a lot of the things we were talking earlier about the particular issue, those kind of things, I consult with Agnieszka all the time whenever I have a particular pain in my body. I'll
Yeah.
say, hey, Agnieszka, my elbow is hurting. What is that? what is that about? And it'll
It's
be
going to
something
really
that's
get big, Mike, once they start bringing in the vaccine passports into Mexico and all of these, just like it's happening everywhere else, all these healthcare workers who are smart enough to know that their life is more important than their career will say
yeah.
no. And then I know another guy in autonomy and who's organizing all the medical personnel right now into a mutual aid group. I believe that's going on the other side of the country, but it's happening, and I think it's great to nip that in the bud, get those circles forming,
Yeah.
because the vaccine, the fascist passports, your right to be a human, are they even being started? Are they introducing them in Mexico yet or not?
There's some, I mean, you got to be careful with the headlines that you hear from Mexico. So, like a lot of the stuff that comes out of Mexico and goes to the rest of the Western world, like that that's one thing, and then the reality is something else. And so there are places, I think, like Cancun, that are advocating for vaccine
Of
passports.
course, Cancun, because where you've got the World Bank, you've got the center of evil and scum and villainy.
And then you've got, people broadcasting and saying that like 75% of the population of Mexico has been vaccinated. I find that incredibly hard to believe, because there are a lot of alternative medicine and people down here. And, every one of those people that I talk to, they're not interested in taking any vaccines. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. But, I would say, Mexico is one of the freest places on the planet, and there's a lot of reasons why that is. And primarily, I think one of the things is the number one authority in Mexico is not government, it's family. And so that makes a huge difference when it comes to like what people's decisions are and how they make them. There are certainly people that have taken the vaccine down here, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
say that there aren't people wearing masks and stuff like that, because there are, and there's a
I
lot of
think the
people that are afraid.
reality of how many people are vaccinated or not will never be seen until the passes come into play and you see how many people in reality, because that is something that you can't hide. When all of these people suddenly vanish from going into these venues or their jobs or whatnot. Do you know what I'm saying? I think it's a statistic that's realistically impossible to measure anywhere. But once people get cornered, and introducing those vaccine passports will be cornering people. That will be people putting everyone in a corner. I think then you'll really see just how many people know that I'm not doing this, or will go along with it.
Yeah, well,
And
that's a huge opportunity, because a lot of those people that are skilled in their particular field or technology, you know, if they're going to be thrown out of a job because they won't take a vaccine, here's a perfect opportunity to go somewhere that is going to welcome you and try and help you do business, and then being that Acapulco is a place where a lot of freedom-minded people collect from around the world, it's an opportunity to kind of, show your wares. And, that time of year, February of 2022, there's a lot of people coming, going back and forth and stuff like that from around the world.
I mean, off the
And
top
so,
of your head, just from your personal observation, how many people are coming to Acapulco? How many people, like foreigners, how many expats with freedom-minded expats from around the world would you estimate? Just from, because you're there and you know a lot of people. I mean, everybody has been, if anyone in Acapulco who hasn't been to a party at Mike's place,
yeah.
but just rough estimate, would you say a few thousand or what?
Well, I mean, as far as my party is concerned, there's probably been a few thousand people that have come to my house or my former house, because I've obviously moved out here recently. You know, there was several thousand people that gone through there, had been there. You know, a lot of the people like Del Bigtree was one of him and his wife came to the party a couple of years ago when he was down at Acapulco. G. Edward Griffith, I had him sitting on
You
my
had these
couch.
guys in your house partying.
Yeah,
G.
yeah,
Edward Griffin and Del Bigtree. I did not know that. That's amazing. I'm
no,
going to see G. Edward Griffin in a few weeks for the next Red Pill Expo in Lafayette. I'm
awesome.
planning to go. There's a slight chance I may not be able to, but I'm planning to.
You know, as a matter of fact, that's something that I'm kind of interested in is pitching the idea of having another Red Pill Expo in Acapulco at some point. You know, like if that would be something that they would be interested in. I'd love to pitch that idea or help whoever is organizing to do that kind of thing. Okay.
But that's an excellent idea. Maybe we can talk about that. And if I actually end up going to Lafayette in a few weeks, I hope I do. I'm working on it. You know, I'll see Jedward Griffin and I'll talk to him about that. I may drop
Sweet.
that seed and say, hey, you know, what's going on in Acapulco? Maybe you, or find out who the organizer is, who's his right-hand person is. The idea is fantastic. So the community in Mexico, it seems to be growing exponentially. What
Yeah,
are people doing? They're all online. I mean, as far as job-wise, the economy in Acapulco, does it seem different from the rest of Mexico? I mean, what's
well,
it
I mean,
like?
that's one of the things is it has been tremendously hindered by the boogeyman COVID scare and stuff like that. The amount of propaganda that's put out even in Mexico in regard to Acapulco is pretty substantial. I mean, like there was, I don't know, it was probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, we had, the state of Guerrero was in the red, as far as COVID is concerned. And, all kinds of people were forced basically to shut their businesses down again and wear masks at every possible opportunity. They had new fines and stuff, that they were enforcing at the local government level. And, they chased away quite a few people from Mexico City. There was a lot of people from Mexico City that were saying, they're telling us people are dropping in the streets like left and right, in Acapulco. And I was like, oh, no, that's not happening.
That is a point I was going to make with you. You know how freedom mind people like from California are flocking to places like, Texas and Florida and New York. People are trying to get away, which is fine as long as they don't bring their collectivist BS with them. That's a good point. So the same is happening in Mexico. They're leaving DF and coming to other regions like Acapulco. So you're seeing that a lot as well.
But that is the opportunity that the kind of the voluntarist community has, because if we can draw people and start business here, we can basically be the biggest draw for this town. We can be the biggest business in town, and essentially these people are very kind, very friendly, very helpful. They're super willing to do whatever it takes to get things done. And it's Mexico, so the cost of living down here is incredibly cheap. So a lot of people that are working online and stuff like that are remote workers. You can come down to Mexico, you can come down to Acapulco and be a part of a community, earn a living, and even if you're earning a tenth as much as you're earning in the Western world, you're probably going to be great. I mean, currently I'm living on, I can live on less than $500 a month here, comfortable.
Yeah.
And
And you've just moved now. You're 2 weeks now, and you were in your old place for 6 years.
Yeah.
You've just moved. I don't want your address or anything, but my question is, are you still in town? Are you still kind of above town? What did you do?
No, I lived on the mountain, which is actually between like Acapulco and what's called Diamante, kind of the more developed kind of modern area that's more familiar to like Americans and stuff like that. And of course, that's where the Princess was, where the Acapulco conference was. for most of the years. I actually live in Acapulco now, in the area called Condesa, which is just right on the coast or right next to the bay. We can see the water from the balcony here.
What's public transport like? Is it pretty easy to get a bus, or is there a subway system?
There is no subway, but there's buses and what we call colectivos and taxis.
Yes, I
Like
remember the colectivos when I was in Playa and Chichen Itza and that area. That's right. We caught a few colectivos, and what I remember when I first got to Mexico was the way. What unnerved me a bit was the way everybody would just cross the street. Red lights mean nothing, which I like. That was more similar to Spain, which I was used to, but even crazier. I suppose Acapulco's the same. It's just like everybody, nothing coming, just go for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I first got here in 2015, that was exactly the case. There was no stoplights working. The police were actually on strike, and so like everybody was just doing everything like you cross the street at your own risk, kind of thing. It has calmed down a bit. They have installed stop lights and crossing lights and stuff like that, and to some degree it's tamed a little bit of that kind of stuff, but it is kind of the Wild West, and there are a lot of things that you see here that you're probably not going to see anywhere else,
But that's fantastic. I mean, it comes back to our basic philosophy of freedom, that we are responsible for our own actions. And that's it. Okay. You cross the street and it's a bit of a risk. The risk, you get run over. It's nobody to blame but yourself. Can't blame, oh, there was no red light, and that is that is a small example, but I think it exemplifies the fundamental problem of collectivism versus individualism that's going on in the world. The right to choose to risk your life crossing the street, as long as you're not risking anyone else's life, as long as you're not putting anyone else at risk. And you could argue, you could, you're putting the driver at risk. Actually, that's a pretty good argument, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, everybody is got their own, like whatever they're in control of, that's their responsibility. And so to some degree, that is another thing that I find really fun and unusual about Acapulco is kind of the way that like people use their horns and stuff. It's very loud. People are very expressive. They their music is loud and all that kind of stuff. And so there is that kind of in your face kind of noise and stuff, but it's a very friendly interaction, like you see people beeping their horns at each other, but it's really, they're kind of just like I'm here, that they're not saying like, get out of my way. It's not like road rage.
I know exactly what you mean, because Spain was the same. Maybe I don't know if this was a friend of mine from Mexico, he was from Aguascalientes, but do you drive down there? Do you have a car?
I actually just drove the other day for the first time in 6 years. I had not driven the whole time.
Dude, I know, I've been there, man. I know what that's like. From 1997 until 2010, I didn't own a car. Now I would rent a car every once in a while. But the first time I drove in Madrid, we rented one, and I was having a blast. I was driving around, my elbow out the window, honking at everybody, screaming, joder, macho, because that's what everybody does, nobody's gonna stop and come out with a bat and try to fight me, because I might get a finger or two, but and my friends were just laughing because I was just going around the roundabout screaming, joder, macho, so I can imagine, I'm getting off topic here, but my friend told me in Mexico, if you do your horn, that will get your ass whooped, because apparently it means chinga tu madre, cabron, but I don't know if that's true, if that's urban legend or what.
I got to keep that one in mind, because I do that sometimes when I knock. I do that. Not.
Yeah, I don't know if it applies to knocking on people's doors, but he said on the road. But again, I don't know. That might be just urban legend, but I wouldn't put it to the test if I were you.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll let you know if I find out something about
So
that.
you're adapting to your new apartment. You're in the town. So is it better for you?
Honestly, it's different because I had a like a mountain vista that overlooked the Pacific Ocean. It was absolutely gorgeous, and to give that up, it is a little bit of a it's melancholy feeling. But at the same time, getting down into the city, getting a chance to interact with people more because I can step out and go to a local restaurant, you know, in a matter of minutes or seconds even.
Do you remember our last interview for truthconduit.com? Mike, I remember that little Spanish lesson I gave you. Have you been applying that? Have you done your homework for me?
Uh,
I'm not asking you
I do.
to do a repeat.
I am listening to Spanish tape like on a daily basis because I do need to learn my Spanish, but at the
Yeah,
same
I mean
time,
that's what you do. You don't speak Spanish. You didn't speak Spanish. You're there. You're learning it. As long as you're making an effort. And one thing I've learned is wherever you go in the world, as long as you make the slightest effort, obviously, if you say, I mean, you're in Germany, you're in France, if you can at least say in that language, I'm sorry, I don't speak the language, or
yeah,
try to order, they will appreciate that. And I imagine it's
yeah.
the same in Mexico.
Yeah, I think for me, my actions have spoken. I mean, like a lot of people know me that even though I don't speak Spanish, that I love Acapulco, and for for them that's enough. Do probably 90 hours. I mean, I was just looking at my schedule this week. I got like 90 hours scheduled for myself and stuff that's either autonomy related or work related or other projects that I'm working on.
That's awesome. That's
That
an example of superb organizational skills that everyone should take note of. And also I want to point out, you've got the wise old man look going right now, and
yeah,
and that's kind of like the equivalent of being a little kid. You can pretty much get away with anything, whether it's a remark or not speaking the language, you can get away with that much better. But that does kind of lead to a sadder note. I am sorry for your recent losses, but that does explain. I know the story with your beard, and you've started a foundation. Is that right, for your brothers? You want to talk about that?
yeah. I'll talk about that a little bit, and let me know if my internet is skipping out here a little bit.
No, it's been pretty good.
If that's the case, but yeah, this past summer, my younger brother Joe passed away. He had been in a coma for almost 18 years. He'd gotten injured on it just after his 18th birthday. Is actually Christmas Eve that my brother had come home from Japan. He was in the Marines, and they took a trip to the store and hit a patch of ice and crashed. And from that day forward, my younger brother Joe was in a coma. And then just here recently, he finally passed away after almost 18 years in that coma. And to some degree that was a relief, but it also kind of it hit me hard. And then on top of that, we had some other people in our community that had passed away in this past year that I was very close to. It made me really think about what life is about, and especially with my younger brother, being that he was 18 when he basically got cut down, and thinking about the potential that he had that he lost, and that we have, and that I've got two hands and I got 2 feet, and I got my body, I got myself, I got a good head on my shoulders. If I'm not applying that every day, if I'm not taking advantage of the life that I have every day, then I'm not paying tribute to those people that didn't make it, that don't have that opportunity. And so for me, I spent a little time in South Africa, and I kind of got introduced to some of the traditions that they have. And one of them is kind of that idea, and it's actually something that's practiced down here in Mexico too. They've got a little bit different approach to when someone passes away, but it is paying tribute to my all those people, especially my brothers. I actually had 2 brothers that have passed away in my lifetime, and so I'm naming a foundation after them. And that idea is really a foundation for peaceful collaboration and prosperity is really what it's about, and it's focused on doing that here in Acapulco. And
Yeah,
so,
that's the name
and
of it. The Joseph and Matthew Nimitz Foundation for Peaceful Collaboration and Prosperity. So is it
yeah,
up and
yeah.
running
So,
now?
well, I mean, anybody that does business with me, they're basically donating to that fund, and then
That's
that
excellent.
fund
Yeah.
is going into all the different things that I'm promoting. We are certainly interested in creating like a mutual aid society here. And so
Okay. So
all the
like the
things that I'm
proceeds
doing
from your
is
course, for example, would go into that
yes,
foundation as well. That
yes,
is excellent. And your beard is you're going to
yeah,
wear it for 1 year in honor of your lost brothers. I thought that was excellent when you
yeah.
said that.
So I'm growing this beard, and I'm actually growing my hair too. So you can see
Oh
it's kind of
yeah.
out of control. And so like when people are like, God damn it, why don't you cut your hair? I'm going to say, well, there's a story behind that. So this is also something that I've kind of connected with is creating a story for people to understand and kind of get in rapport with you is something that's really kind of important. And this is something that I'm helping with some of the businesses that I'm focusing on this particular year is really kind of creating the stories behind the business so that people can understand where we're coming from. And certainly this beer thing is one of those examples of, like, let me tell you a story about this.
What about Bob Podolsky? So you've got the Podolsky Advanced Learning Institute in Acapulco. What's going
Yeah.
on with that?
Yeah. So, Bob earlier this year, he kind of had a brush with death himself. He's in his 80s, and we were thinking, maybe Bob isn't going to make it, this go around. And it was looking pretty rough for him. He had a couple different issues. He got an issue with his heart, an issue with his lungs, and the he ended up in the hospital. And coming out of the hospital, us as a community, we kind of rallied around Bob, and each one of us kind of took a day, and we were going to kind of make sure that everything was good for him that particular day. And so I had my day where I'd go over, spend the day with him, spend the night, and cooking lunch and dinner and breakfast, and make sure that he was taken care of, because he pretty much couldn't walk or anything else at that point. It was really incredible moment, honestly, because Bob
It
has
was
recovered.
also a good test of how, it was a trial run, I should say, of the community, kind of rallying to come
Right.
around to support someone in trouble. I mean, and
Yeah.
that was an excellent example. And luckily, it turned out to have a happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah, and coming out of that kind of circumstance, I had a chance to discuss with Bob, kind of some of his, because like we had some really tough conversations, because there was a point where we didn't know, like, okay, what are we going to do, Bob, if you're, if you leave us, what do you want us to do, and so those kind of conversations, out of those conversations, we derived this Podolsky Advanced Learning Institute. That was one of the things that I was absolutely going to do, whether Bob made it or not. But since this has kind of inspired him to keep living, as well as the community kind of rallying around him, is this idea of bringing about something that showcases all the things that Bob has contributed to, because he has spent a lot of time thinking about stuff, and similar to Stefan Verstappen, he's got a lot of stuff, and
I
a
mean,
lot of
wasn't it Podolsky's ideas that were the basis for when John Bush and Derek Brose kind of started to develop the Freedom Cell networks? It was his octologs that they based a lot
right.
of their ideas on. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
Podolsky goes way back with his ideas of community building and ideas like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and that comes from another guy by the name of John David Garcia, which is another really smart guy with a lot of innovative ideas that Bob was part of that experiment that went on for, I don't know, 18 or 20 years or something, that kind of came up with the octalog and the idea of all that stuff. So yeah, there's some, there's a lot of stuff there, and that's one of the things that has come out of that is something called harmony enhancement, which is certainly something that everybody that's involved in community or anybody that's involved in doing anything with anybody else, whether it be business or association, they need this kind of thing because we really function well when we're in harmony with ourselves and with our community.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
really,
the
that's
essential
what we should
lessons
expect.
is you need people who are like-minded and that you get along with to get the community going. And right now, that's not a hard thing to do because humanity's under attack. So a lot of good people have two things in common. They're smart enough to see through the BS and they like freedom. So, and of course there will be differences, from there. Everyone's different. I see there's always a lot of bickering, but with enough communication skill and education that this is nothing compared to the bigger picture.
Well, I think a lot of the bickering that goes on in the world is because we've been conditioned to be in disharmony and kind of look for all the negatives and stuff like that. And so, like looking at it, introducing people to the other side of the equation, that like, what does peaceful living really give us? What does harmony really, mean for us? Those are things that unfortunately they don't show you on the TV or in the movies. But the reality is that's what we're capable of, and that is what our potential is. And we really have to strive to go there. And certainly that's one of the things that, that since I know that, I've got to get that out there in front of people. And that's certainly one of the things that I'm helping Bob with is get that harmony
The
enhancement course off
institute,
the ground.
his institute for the Podolsky Advanced Learning, is it a brick and mortar get together right now, or is it kind of online, or I imagine a bit of both? What?
It's pretty much a virtual thing. There's a couple people that are working on Bob's. So there's a website that Bob has called Civilization Done Right. That is one of the elements. But there's obviously a lot of courses that Bob has developed over the years, not just with octalogs, but with what he calls soul bonding, which is a whole kind of psychotherapy that's kind of an educational model that Bob is derived, and he's got a book out about it, which is something I helped him with as well. And then there's a lot of other courses and stuff that that Bob has developed over the years that we're also trying to really kind of make into kind of a course design that other people can utilize as well, because there's some other things that a lot of the ways that we've learned come from the institutions, and there's a lot of things that we can do better when it comes to getting people into the state of mind of learning that that we can do.
Definitely sounds like something I need. So what did you call it? Soul binding?
Soul bonding.
Soul bonding. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that's about, but it makes me think that it goes back to the fundamental idea that we can't go out and help the world and create community unless we've got ourselves sorted. It goes back to like the first week in autonomy, get your space sorted, get your issues cleared out before anything else, or just clear your space. And that goes with all the self work as well. That's another part of the problem in the world is there's a lot of messed up people out there who are just psychopaths, and yet they're shielding it by pretending to go out there and help people. And what they're actually doing is trying to control them.
Well, the outside world reflects the inside world, and to a large degree, a lot of the things that we have problems with on the inside are a reflection of the problems that we have on the outside world. And so it is one of those things where we've got to work on both. I'm certainly one of those people that I've got my own issues that I've got to work on for myself. I'm not perfect by any means, and I've got a lot of trauma and stuff that I've went through in my lifetime that affect who I am and what I'm capable of, and I want to solve those particular problems. but there's also problems out in our community and all those things. And it is really the things that we do every day that either make those things better or contribute to keeping those things the way they are, And so, there are things that we can do for ourselves that we've got to work on, and there are things that we can do for others out there in our community that we need to practice as well, And it is being an example, and like you, Chris, all the things that you're doing, people see you doing them. They're like, hey, yeah, I can do that. If you can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we've got to be. We've got to be the example in a lot of cases. We got to practice what we preach.
Yeah, appreciate it. No, there's a lot. I do have a lot going on in talking about community circles. I mean, all of these communities are starting to overlap a little bit. In my case, I'm trying to think the communities that I'm involved with are, you've got the autonomy community, which it's a course, but really it's a community of entrepreneurs and freedom-minded content creators. Then I've got my physical, very near, nearest to me, what was a homeschooling community, but now we're taking it more seriously. I don't want to call us a freedom cell, but we are trying, and then you've got the Dallas Freedom Cell Network, and then you've got the Voluntarius group in Dallas, and then you've got the Jack Spirko, who he's got a massive following, and that is more of a hands-on kind of, these guys are really, when it comes down to farming and permaculture and design and cryptocurrency, all the things you can actually do, he's got a massive community going on there. And so I am I'm in that community because I attended one of his workshops. So I'm in their Telegram group, which is only available to people who attend the workshops. And that is a lot of very smart, practical people with a lot of good ideas. And they all overlap as well. There are people in both here and there. Some people, like, for example, I know some people in the Voluntarius community who laugh at who think autonomy is, what is that? As Verstappen said, you've got circles within circles, and that's the way to do it.
Yes.
Going on a little bit but my point is that's the way to do it, is to, in fact, it's very important that there are circles within circles. They overlap because the more decentralized, the better. It's essential that everything is very decentralized. You've got a lot going on. So you've got let's summarize. You've got your podcast that you're busy with. You're doing autonomy. You're busy with your course, getting that going on. And you're helping Podolsky out. You've got that going on. And now you've got the Vivo Inteligente. You've got that project going on to get that newsletter up and running. A point on that. What's it going to be about? Is it going to be about just what's going on in the freedom-minded, the expat community, or just in general in Acapulco, or will it be very specific, or all of the above?
Well,
have you thought about it?
I'm trying to, I have thought about it a lot, because I'm trying to offer something that hits a lot of the buttons for a lot of different people, because I think, Acapulco is a real, in place community, but there are a lot of people that aren't necessarily here all the time. There are people that come to visit for Acapulco, and they're only here for 1 or 2 weeks out of the year. But they're still part of our community. And then there are people that live here all the time, like myself.
Yeah, that ties into exactly what I was saying. Yeah, and that's fine.
And so really what I want to be able to do is kind of address the people that are bringing solutions that have actionable intelligence that other people can use. So it's certainly about kind of giving people.
Let's just say it, Mike. Those solutions are the gray markets. We've got to create a parallel reality to what they're going to try and shut down. And that's the key right there. That's what it's all about, is creating your own reality. That's what it's all about, because they're going to shut down they're going to shut everything down. They're going to put everyone into a corner. So the more resilient, the more anti-fragile people are, and this cannot be done. It cannot be done. I'm convinced it's something Verstappen says, without a community, you know, yeah, it would be cool to go and live on the mountain alone and just ride this out. But nobody can do that. Let's face it. Maybe 1 in a million really hardcore mountain dudes could do that. Everyone's going to need some kind of community support.
And that's, to me, Acapulco is one of those places that it isn't just the voluntarist and the anarchist community here that can serve you. It's the whole community. It's Acapulco. Like all of the people here are, in the circumstance that they've been under the gun for a long time, and anybody that comes and is kind or wants to do business pretty much will be treated like a king down here. And so that's kind of one of the things that like what you're talking about, circles within circles. We've got a number of circles here that allow us to get a great deal done, with very little, as far as infrastructure. But again, the idea with the Vivo Intelligente is to kind of showcase a lot of the stuff, and the newsletter is really just to kind of like let people know that there's solutions there, and then there's a journal behind it where we're going to do much more kind of in-depth understanding of kind of the connections that can be made. And certainly one of the areas that I want to focus in on is what I would consider called word of mouth marketing, or kind of person to person networking, is kind of creating that kind of environment where we're really knitting people together and really kind of making those making significant commitments to each other into a community.
I mean, the word of mouth is actually the best.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it, anything that's digital can be infiltrated, but physical meetups, put the phone away, physical paper, there's the potential, there's going old school basically. And that's what a lot of people are going to have to do in certain situations, is to literally go old school. Verstappen even goes so far as to say, we literally have to do what the globalists did and have done successfully, is literally create our own secret societies with a whole culture, a whole mythology, a ritual, because you need that common bond. It's fascinating stuff. So when's the first? Here, I'm gonna trigger complexity. Throw a trigger complexity at you, Mike. When's the first newsletter out? Where can people sign up?
That's something that I actually wanted to get started here in October, but with the move and everything else, it's kind of gotten pushed back a little bit. But I am looking for people that are interested in putting together the newsletter, and if any of the audience here are people that are inclined to do that, or somebody that knows me, or somebody that's in our community, I've got a couple of people that are interested in doing some of the articles, and we've got a kind of an idea of how we're going to present it. But I certainly want to take it up to the highest level that can possibly go. And, I think there's going to be a component that's probably like video.
Oh,
so
that would be cool. Yeah, like that's a good idea.
Video portion with maybe a couple kind of quick blurbs. We've got a connection with a lot of great copywriters and so forth. So
yeah, you've got a lot of, Mike. I mean, you and I are probably, I will argue, you and I are two of the best connected people out there when it comes to, between us and all the communities we're in, the amazing minds that we are in contact with on a daily basis. I was going to say what was I going to say about the newsletter? Oh no, I lost it.
Well, you tried to nail me down to the thing, but I was able to kind of go another direction, and so I'm thinking that maybe it's in the next month or so.
No, but
well, I think one of the things that I want to try and do, and in the spirit of that word of mouth thing, is that idea of collaborating. So I'm not necessarily so interested in developing my own email list, but I want to just get it out to other people that have email lists that also want to be, that want to stay in contact and connection with their people. Like if we can offer a newsletter kind of insert that they can insert like on a weekly basis so that they can keep, people informed and up to date. And, maybe it isn't all of the stuff that we're providing, but maybe it's just a piece or a part of that.
Yeah, like a slice of what life is like and what it could offer for people not happy with their current situation or thinking of getting out of Dodge and heading down to that area. That would be.
Yeah, so that's another thing is if people that already have an audience that are looking to stay connected with that audience and kind of service that audience and that email list, that's somebody that I like to talk to as well, because I would like to make our newsletter so that it can be formatted for them, so that we can collaborate and, get more done with less resources,
Yeah, cool.
So,
Let's start wrapping up. I
Okay.
got to get going. Any
Sure.
final thoughts?
Well, again, Chris, it's a real pleasure to get some time to chat with you. I always appreciate your presence, and any chance to talk to you, Chris, is always inspiration to me.
Yeah, any
I really
chance when
feel
we're
like
not
you're
in
one
a
of those-
meeting. Because, I see you all the time in the meetings, but, hey, Mike, I see you. But yeah, it's great to talk to you as well. This
Yeah.
is your second interview here, and I've been on your podcast as well on leadership, ethics, and organization. That was good fun. I still keep
Yes.
that on my front page under the specials.
Oh, awesome.
Well, cool. Sorry, I interrupted you. Any other thoughts, though, to finalize?
Well, I just like to say, the invitation is always out there for anybody that wants to come down to Acapulco. That I'm here to be their concierge or anything that they need. Feel free to contact me if they've got any kind of questions like that. And of course, any of the people that are associated with autonomy, obviously, they're almost like family to me. They're certainly welcome to come down here, and certainly you, Chris. You and your family are obviously always welcome down.
I cannot allow my wife to see this interview. She'll be there tomorrow.
It is a wonderful place. I love it more every day.
No doubt. Well, Mike, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I've got a friend in Jesus Christ. I've got a friend in Jesus Christ, and Krishna and Buddha and my bartender.
Have you found that your skills aren't matching up with the challenges ahead? Here are 19 essential skills for success that school never taught you. Get your free copy by following the link below or visit getautonomy.info/19skills.